This is a City Commission work session for the City of Largo for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. I'm Mayor Brown. As you may know, I'm stuck at home for a few more days, quarantining due to COVID. So I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Robinson to help manage things at home because it's really hard to run a meeting. They're at the City Hall because it's really hard to run a meeting from here. So I appreciate your help, Vice Mayor, and I'll hand it off to you.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I having a little bit of feedback here, so I hope it's not too bothersome. It's gonna be for me. But so for today's, we have at the beginning of every work session, we have a business spotlight. And today's business spotlight is on Seasons Hospice and Palliative Care. So Isabella, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Robinson, and hello everyone else in attendance. Today I am pleased to introduce our guests from Seasons Hospice and Palliative Care. In attendance we have Deborah, who is the Director of Clinical Operations, Daphne, who is their consultant, and Kimberly, who is the Director of the new facility that they recently opened up here in Largo at 3500 Oak Manor Lane. Seasons Hospice is a community-based organization on an ongoing mission to find creative solutions which add to the quality of life of their patients and families. So a quick congratulations to you all on opening the new facility. And with that, I'll go ahead and jump into our first question. So can you tell us more about your business?
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity, Mayor Brown and Vice Mayor Robinson and the Commission. We really appreciate it. Seasons Hospice and Palliative Care is a national organization. We are currently serving hospice care to patients and families in 19 states at 31 different sites across the state. And in Florida, this is our actually it was our 5th site, and then we opened Pasco after we opened our site here in Pinellas County. If you're not familiar with the process, perhaps you are. The certificate of need that's required by the state was identified due to the growing population in Pinellas County back in about 2016. And it was determined that we needed another hospice here in Pinellas County, and a number of hospices responded. And we were awarded the certificate because of our track record across the nation and in Florida itself. They looked at some of the care that we've been providing in Florida counties. We opened in December of 2017, and we took our first patient in April of 2018. So we were really proud that day. Our anniversary is coming up soon to celebrate that. Our current census right now is about 200 patients. So even through COVID, we have grown. COVID kind of slowed us down a little bit, but we've gained traction, and we opened the new unit, and we're at about 200 patients right now. Some of the things that are interesting about Seasons Hospice is that, of course, we're certified and regulated by ACA. However, we've chosen to be also credentialed by the highest industry standard, and that is the Joint Commission. So we're also Joint Commission certified, and that's very important to note because most hospitals in the area also choose Joint Commission to certify them as well. So that speaks to the quality of care that we provide. We're active in our Florida Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, and that feeds up to the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. And some of the special programs that we offer that kind of set us apart from other hospices. From a regulatory perspective, we're not required to provide these services. However, it improves the end-of-life experience for patients and families, so we choose to do this. And one of those programs is our Legacy program. We have special wishes if somebody wants to go out fishing or something with their family. We do this through our foundation and make that happen so that they can have a good family time before they get closer to end of life. We do thumbprint jewelry for patients or their families, their survivors. So there are a lot of different legacy programs that we can do, as simple as a thumbprint and as extravagant as a fishing trip. We have a program called Namaste that reaches all of our patients. However, it's very therapeutic for our patients with memory issues, and that's what it's known for. So you may see our folks, if you ever go into a building and see our team, they may be providing Namaste care, which can be anything, splashing some Old Spice on a gentleman to bring back some memories, or using some ginete on someone, or balloons, popping them in the air. It really brings people around. We also are Platinum Sage members. We serve our LGBT community here in Pinellas County. I currently sit on the LGBT Elder Initiative with Pinellas County Area Agency on Aging. I call it AAA. And I'm going to stop there because Daphne is our pro to talk about We Honor Veterans, and we're very involved with our veteran community as well.
Is it okay if I take this down just so I can talk? Hi, I'm Daphne, and as Deb said, one of the initiatives that we are part of is the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization's partnership with the VA in a program called We Honor Veterans. And that's an initiative that you have 5 levels to achieve. And we actually were the first hospice in this county to achieve the 5th level, one of the top 3 hospices in the country. But I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Florida has the largest population of veterans over the age of 55. Here in Pinellas County alone, we have 90,000 veterans. So that program really gears end-of-life care for veterans who may have a unique experience at end of life, different than other patients that we care for. So if you've ever heard of Honor Flight, here in Largo, you guys are big supporters of Honor Flight. I sit on the board of Honor Flight, and Seasons Hospice also participates strongly through We Honor Veterans in the Honor Flight program. So that is one of the initiatives that we have as a special program.
Great. Sounds like you all are doing a lot of work and continue to just excel in so many different areas. And I know you mentioned a little bit about the growing population and need here in Pinellas County. And so with that, can you maybe speak a little bit more about why you chose Largo for this new facility? Back up.
Yeah. Well, I am a Pinellas County native, 3rd generation, just over the line in Seminole. So we actually looked at this county, and the concentration of need here in Mid-County helps to generate the need for an inpatient center where it's convenient both for South County as well as North County. So Largo was kind of the sweet spot to allow families so that they don't have to travel so far. So that's basically why we chose Largo.
Great. And then
That we had a wonderful partner in Oak Manor, and Commissioner Gerard was at our open house, and it is just an amazing building, and Oak Manor just went out of their way to help us achieve the best possible aesthetics and place for patients who are entering end of life.
Great. And with your new facility, are you all facing any challenges currently in any areas?
Me again. Probably our biggest challenge is the fact that people don't think of hospice early enough, or that they confuse us with Seasons Memory Care, which, while that's an awesome organization and assisted living facility, we have nothing to do with them. And the longstanding Suncoast Hospice in this community, us coming in, we don't have the recognition of name that they have for that long of a time. So we don't do any advertising. Everything is word of mouth through our family members that we care for and the physicians and the communities that we partner with. So you won't see billboards or commercials for us. So it's really name recognition for us, and the misconception that somebody has to be actively dying to be under hospice care, when that isn't the truth. We can do good many, many months before that actually happens.
Great, that's great to know for everyone watching this video today. And our last question, what can Largo do for you?
I really do have a voice. I thought long and hard about this question before I came here, and my main answer to you is It's not so much what Largo can do for us, it's what we can do to serve the citizens of Largo and the surrounding communities. I was chosen as the leader for this new unit, not because of my extraordinary leadership ability. It was because of the fire and the passion that I have for caring for hospice patients. This has been a dream of mine for a very long time. I'm sorry. This is a big, big step in helping the citizens of Petoskey. They have shown a need, and we're willing to give them every ounce of our love and our care and our fire and our passion to make sure that their end-of-life experience is a good death. So I hire my team, I train my team, I teach my team to have the same fire and passion as I do. So if you can do anything for us, it's just to get that word of mouth out there that we're here and we're ready. And we may not be as big as the other hospices in the county, but our heart is huge. That's all I got.
Thank you. I can feel that passion, and so I can't imagine the passion that your staff feels. It is a very touchy subject, and it is very emotional. So thank you all for being here. And with that, I will open up to any questions from our commissioners.
Thank you for all you do.
Any questions, comments?
I just want to say that I was at the ribbon cutting, and it is a beautiful facility, and it was plain to see that all of you folks there, you know, work with your heart in this, and it is wonderful. As someone who was a caretaker for both of my parents, and my father would use the hospice that was available up in Northeast Ohio in his last days, I know. I know the peace and the tranquility and the support that hospices do give, and so thank you for this. Thank you.
Commissioner Carroll?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for all that you do. I had occasion to have hospice involved with both my parents in recent years, and I don't know what we would have done without the services they provided. But you asked about word of mouth, recognition, and so forth. I just want to let you know that perhaps you might reach out to the police department and the fire department. In the police department, they have a police chaplain, and they also have a senior services officer and victim advocates and so forth that you may want to, make them familiar.
He's awesome.
Yeah. So a little bit of advertising for them, but I just thought I'd mention that to you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Commissioner Smith.
I also would like to thank you for everything y'all are doing as the grandson of someone who went through hospice, and what you'll do is really appreciative, and we all thank you, and keep it up. And any way we can get the word out, I would love to help out. When you talked about the LGBTQ plus community, with have you reached out or talked to Metro down in St. Petersburg, Metro Health?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we actively work with several organizations down there. We're working across the divide with Hillsborough and Pasco, so we're working very hard. One of the initiatives that we're doing also is with the Alzheimer's community, and that is a showing of Gen Silent.
Okay.
So we're getting Gen Silent out there for everybody. The interesting thing with patients at end of life who are LGBTEI is that it's really, really sad because they start having fears around the care that's being provided for them. And they go back into the closet. And it may have taken them 60 years to come out of the closet. And they're so fearful of being judged and fearful of the care that they may not receive and fearful of a painful and terrible death that they go back into the closet. And it's really, really sad. And we're very proud to provide care to LGBTEI Q community because we allow them to be who they are, first and foremost.
Awesome. I'd love to come do a tour with you and talk more about this down the road. And also, I have connection. I don't know. I know you don't like press or But to help out the Watermark, which reaches out to that community, I can get you in contact with one of their editors and would love to maybe do a story and help you all out as best I can. So I look forward to it. So thank you.
Commissioner Holt?
Yes, I just wanted to also express my thanks to you. I've always felt like hospice, people involved in hospice are angels on earth, and it takes very, very, very special people to do the job that you all do. I do have one question, though. So when we had hospice for one of my aunts, they came to our house prior to you do that also? Daphne?
So a lot of people think that hospice is a place that you go to, but hospice is actually a philosophy of care, and most of that care is done in people's homes because that's where they're most comfortable, whether it's a residential home, assisted living, even nursing home, even homeless. Unfortunately, we have a great deal of homelessness in this county, and we do serve that population as well. So there are different levels of care. Our inpatient center is for the highest level of hospice care, that for somebody who has symptoms that cannot be managed in their home setting. It's really for short-term symptom management, always with the goal of getting that patient back home where they're most comfortable.
Thank you.
Mayor Brown?
Are you frozen, Mayor?
Thank you. I wanted to just thank you briefly for all the service that you provide for our residents, and also thank you for being in Largo. I do want to point out that when you said Largo is this sweet spot, I really like that, and I'm going to use that in the future.
So Mayor, up a little bit, but I believe your comment was about Largo being the sweet spot?
Yeah, sorry. Like I said, I'm outside, but I'm going to use that in the future. Is what I'm saying. Largo is the sweet spot.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Finger?
Thank you. I was going to comment a lot of what has already been said, which is I've had personal experience with a family member and having hospice come into the household, and it was a very great experience. So thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Commissioner Finger. I just wanted to say, obviously your passion for the care that you guys are providing here in Largo is rather obvious. And we thank you for that, and we thank you for being here in Largo and serving our community. So thank you very much. If there's ever anything that we can do as a city, please reach out to us and let us know. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you. Okay, next up we are going to have a presentation from the Urban Land Institute on the future use of the Largo Municipal Golf Course.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It's my pleasure this evening to welcome the Urban Land Institute of Tampa Bay to speak about the potential long-range plans for the City of Largo Golf Course. The Urban Land Institute is a nonprofit organization and education organization that focuses on issues of land use, real estate, and urban development. The City of Largo Golf Course was purchased by the city in 1979 and reconstructed in 2007. So in the next 5 to 10 years, the course will require significant capital investments. The golf course is an enterprise fund and currently is unable to support those future capital needs. The Urban Land Institute held a technical advisory panel comprised of a diverse group of professionals representing the full spectrum of land use disciplines, and they volunteered their time to provide an external perspective of the potential future uses of the golf course property. City staff and the panel conducted extensive community outreach over the last year to help carefully craft a variety of strategic options for the golf course. As you know, this is a very popular topic. Thank you all for joining us who are here in the audience today and everyone that's at home. We've also received many emails to the City Commission regarding the future of the course. I want everyone to know that all of those emails and communication that we received was sent to the City Commission for review prior to this meeting. Now I'd like to welcome Jim Clore, the Technical Assistance Panel Chair, to introduce his team and review their recommendations for the Largo Golf Course. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie, and thank you to members of the commission. We appreciate that the Urban Land Institute was engaged to look at this really interesting issue that you're dealing with here in Largo. As Maggie noted, we are a not-for-profit organization. Right now, the Urban Land Institute, which was founded in 1935, has about 45,000 members worldwide. But what's of most interest to you, and certainly most interest to me, is the Tampa Bay District Council, which is comprised of about 600 members in a 7-county area extending from Citrus County on the north to Sarasota County on the south. We do have a new mission statement, and I've lost what it is, so I'm going to, you probably don't care about our, it's a new mission statement. I had the old one memorized, but so our mission is to shape the future of the built environment for transformative impact in communities worldwide. One of our services, one of the ways we do this is through our various advisory panels. More typically, our advisory panels are a week long, where we come in and look at very broad issues. But to complement those, we have the technical assistance panels, which are more focused on specific land use issues. Those that take place normally over a 2-day period, but in times of COVID and having to use Zoom, we've spread it out over a 4-day period, which has really been interesting for us. So like you, we're learning in many ways how we can best communicate. I personally have done about 10 of these week-long panels that I mentioned before, and I've done 4 or 5 of the technical assistance panels right here in the Tampa Bay area. And I'll have to say I am very honored that we were able to put together what I think is a really high-class team to work with this issue. These are folks from all across the country. I'd like to say we flew in the very best. Well, we flew them in by Zoom. We have folks from Arizona and from South Florida and from the Washington, D.C. area. I'm going to ask them to just briefly introduce themselves, starting with, thank goodness, Hannah McAleer could be here with us in person. The rest are joining us on Zoom. Hannah?
Good evening, Hannah McAleer. I'm a landscape architect here in Tampa. I'm a Pinellas County resident. I'm really excited to be a part of this panel. It's been a great experience. I'm here as a ULI member, and my day-to-day, I spend my time designing, programming, and budgeting for lots of parks and amenities to serve communities.
And Ann?
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for having us. I'm Ann Pollock. I'm a land use and real estate attorney with Fletcher Fisher Pollock, a boutique women-owned law firm in St. Petersburg. I'm also, I'm not a resident of Largo, but I'm definitely a user of your services and very excited to participate in this opportunity here.
John Reimer?
Hi, I'm John Reimer. I have a company, Reimer Strategies. We do market research and consumer research on real estate projects. We're based in Tampa Bay.
Will?
Hi, everyone. I'm William Herbig. I'm with ULI in our Building Healthy Places team, where I oversee a portfolio of people and projects focused at the intersection of health and social equity. Prior to being at ULI, I was in private sector planning, where I oversaw conversion of a golf into a passive public park outside of Atlanta. Glad to be here.
Good afternoon, Mayor, member of the Commission. My name is Mike Nunziata. I'm the Division President of 13th Floor Homes. We are a master plan development company and home builder based in Fort Lauderdale.
You traveled the furthest, Paula?
Hello, everyone. I'm Paula Randolph. I am with the Babbitt Center for Land and Water Policy, and we are a program at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. We are a nonprofit, private operating foundation, and for 75 years, we have looked at finding answers in land and are excited to watch you go through this process to determine what is best for the community members in Largo for your golf course. So I am looking forward to the conversation today.
So that's our team, and here's our staff that I don't want to forget. Go ahead, Siobhan.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Siobhan O'Kane. I'm the director of the Urban Land Institute in Tampa Bay. I have the privilege and the pleasure of assembling our member teams that you just heard from and partnering with City of Largo on exploration of land use challenges. Thanks.
Jenna? Jenna?
Good afternoon, everyone. Jenna Wiley with the Urban Land Institute. Thank you for having us.
Yanis is joining us from St. Louis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for letting me join you from Missouri. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I'm excited by what the panel has put together for you.
So that's our team. That's our very important support staff. So just give you a highlight of what we went through. Your team here put together a very informative briefing book that was full of chock full of good information that was delivered to us ahead of time. We then, and included in that briefing book was extensive surveys that you've done with both with golfers and with community residents. We went through a briefing with the city staff on Thursday afternoon. Then on Friday, several of us that live in the area were able to have an on-site survey of the golf course and of the surrounding area, and we followed that up that afternoon with interviews with a number of people who were generous enough with their time to let us know what their viewpoints were, what their outlooks were, any recommendations they had. All of that was very, very informative. I'd have to say we were very well prepared, and your support has been terrific in making this about as smooth a process. On Monday, we spent most of our day together on Zoom. That's where we could even have our little arguments if we wanted to in terms of figuring out what's the best path forward, what we should recommend to you. And then we, of course, are here tonight to give you our final presentation. This will be followed up with a written report to come out in 6 to 8 weeks. You'll have that on hand with you. So with that, I want to turn to John Reimer. I always like to start with a market overview so that what we're doing is based on reality. Oh, I'm sorry, what we have here, what we're showing is just a few of the highlights from some of the stakeholder interviews that we did. You can read those, and again, they'll be in the book, so I'm not going to take your time to read all those, but they were very informative and very helpful. So with that, John?
Very good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about trends in golf. And as most of you know, the trends lately have not been particularly good. I think the highest number of rounds was in around 2002. And since then, what we've seen is overall from 2009 to 2020, we've seen a decrease of about 18% in rounds during that time. Now, what that means is for most of us, you all know probably better than anybody, what that occurs is the costs of maintaining a golf course are largely fixed, whether there's one person or 200 people using it per day. So when it goes down even like this, 17, 18%, the costs are not going down commensurately. So the upshot of that is about 800 courses have closed in the last decade. And there's been several different ways that they've been reused or repurposed. Sometimes they've just gone fallow. In this case, we pointed out that 19 golf courses have been converted to public parks. And while that's a small percentage of the 800, that allows particularly, that's something that should be considered when you've got a municipal course that's owned by the public, as opposed to a private course that might go back into private hands. So let's take a look at the next slide. This kind of illustrates the last part, which is we were building about 200 golf courses from 1994 to 2004, 200 courses a year. And then you can see it drops precipitously. And starting in 2007, more courses closed than were added. And that's a trend that's continued. Now, again, I want to point out, this trend is not unique to the United States. It's also, it's not just in the United States. In Pinellas County, we're also seeing courses closed. And I think it's important to point out that the number of rounds dropping has pretty much evened about the number of courses closing. So those courses that are still remaining tend to do about what they did in the past. And we're going to take the last 12 months out of it because golf has actually increased during the pandemic, as it's one of the few sports that people can feel safely doing. If we take the last 12 months out, you'll see that in general, courses have closed, and at the same time, rounds have closed, and the courses that have stayed open have pretty much done about the same number of rounds that they've done before. And that's, in a general sense, that's what's happening at Largo Municipal. Here's, I think, probably the most important slide from what I'm going to do, which talks about, well, if you're going to look at reuse, what are some of the ideas for reuse? And this is a ULI slide, and it talks about demand by real estate sectors. And this is over the last 4 years. You can see these, and they've stayed fairly constant. And this is not to say that we can't go outside the box, but this starts out with where are the logical places to look. The number one use of real estate by sectors, the number one growth area is distribution centers. Unfortunately, for this particular site, it's probably not appropriate to begin with, but even if it was, most distribution centers are located on or around a major interstate. So this site really doesn't lend itself either. I don't think the residents would be excited about it, but also I don't think particular tenants would be excited because it's not close to interstate. The second item that there is a potential use, which is single family housing. Single family housing has been strong really since the mid-teens, and this last year has obviously been as strong as I can ever remember, and being in this industry for a long time. So that single family housing demand is hot. Multifamily housing demand is also very strong. So if you take those three, you'll see that demand is very strong. Again, we as a group decided that this wasn't an ideal site for distribution, and the single family multifamily in terms of new types of uses would probably be the best if we weren't going to keep it as a recreational feature. So we'll get to that in a minute, but we'll put that in a parking lot. But I'm saying that the recreational side of this doesn't necessarily have to be a golf course, but we kind of decided that recreation and residential were the two logical uses. If you look at the other three major sectors of real estate, which is office, hotels, and retail, one, demand is very low for these, and they tend to be where they're going to expand to be in outer tier locations. So for example, in Tampa Bay, you might see something for this in, for example, Pasco County or on the outer fringes of development, and or right in the urban core, such as downtown St. Pete. But those are where those three sectors are. And in general, I think it's no secret that all three are kind of struggling right now and probably are not even looking out the horizon for the next 5 to 10 years. We don't see a lot of demand, particularly in an area that's already built out, such as Largo.
Well, there we go. That crazy mute button. Hi, everyone. Thank you, John, for that great introduction. As a team, we took all of this data and all of the information that was provided to develop 10 guiding principles to shape our deliberation in the short amount of time that we had. These were informed by a variety of things, including overall market trends, the changing nature of golf, all of the wonderful data provided by city staff, including the results of the customer and community surveys regarding opinions of the course. We also visited the site, as Jim mentioned, and we had interviews with a wide group of stakeholders reflective of the community's diversity. We took all of that and thought very early on we needed something to frame our group's deliberations. So we developed 10 guiding principles. This is very kind of ULI. We do a lot of 10 principles work across the country. And I'll go through each of these, but really, the order that they're in is important because we're leading with people first. The first 3 principles are really related to existing conditions. And so number 1, we want to celebrate and reflect the community's diversity. There's a lot of interesting things happening in and around the site, and we want to reflect that, including those within the city limits and those that are just right across the city line. Number 2, we want to respect the adjacent neighbors and mitigate any impacts today and in the future. Also, looking at the site, visiting the site, there is really some beautiful mature oaks, palms, and beautiful site features. At first, we wanted to say respect nature. There's nothing as unnatural as a designed golf course. So that's why we say we want to respect the landscape features, because there aren't really natural features there. Looking ahead and based on what folks told us and from the data, there is a great desire for flexible spaces to accommodate a greater number of uses. Really kind of the lone soldier is dead and the golf course only serving one use was something that we heard over and over, that it's the era of a single use site and 40 acres was over. So thinking more creatively about flexibility and multi-use. The Clubhouse is an incredible opportunity to reimagine, not just for those using the course or to remain, but also as a community serving gathering spot, whether in its current state or future state of a clubhouse. There are an incredible amount of assets in proximity within a mile or a mile and a half of this site, including some incredible parks, neighborhoods, YMCAs, other facilities. And so, but you can't get from one to the other. There are really big roads. Some cases when you take in turn lane, there are 8-lane roads. And so getting across those is a major barrier. So providing safe connections is critically important to any future development scenarios. Visibility, we heard, was difficult in access. It's kind of, the site is out of sight, out of mind, tucked up off of Vaughn Road. And so how can we think about ways to increase exposure of this important 40 acres? All of this is, it's important to build partnerships. And since this site is located on the city limits and just right next door is unincorporated county land, partnerships both with community organizations and the county are critical to advance any development scenarios going forward. Two final things, expanding marketing and outreach. A lot of folks that we talked to simply didn't know this asset existed, even though they live within a mile or a mile and a half of the site. And so outreach to adjacent communities, critically important. And finally, anything that is pursued has to be financially sound. The city should look to capitalize upon its assets and be fiscally responsible. We also looked very specifically at the Parks and Arts Strategic Plan. There was a lot in there to help guide our thinking. It's a really wonderful document. You all should be really proud of that document and pivot back to that at all times as you guys consider plans for the site going forward. We also looked at the connectivity plans. I think that's the next slide. And there were some great ideas there. We took this and regardless of any of the 3 development scenarios my colleagues are going to share with you, connectivity is critically important. We did look at the existing assets. Jenna, we'll go to the next slide. And we did see that there are opportunities to begin to link the golf course, which you can see in the center of the circle, to some of the incredible assets. This slide is missing some labels, but basically what you can see in green on this map are some of the adjacent parks and assets, including the Y at the north, Ridgecrest Park, Heritage Village, and the Botanical Gardens there on the south end. And then not that far away is the Nature Preserve over on the water. And there are some aspirational trail connections that could begin to link all this and then link to the Pinellas Trail. This could be an incredible network of loop trails within this part of the city and really be a separator and something to pursue regardless of which of the scenarios you guys think makes sense. Also, this is a way to overcome those very highly wide roads, highly used roads. And you'll see those major intersection and improvements in those yellow circles on the map. And so my colleagues are going to walk through the 3 scenarios that we deliberated upon. One is retain the course, kind of reimagine it going forward. Number 2 is convert the 40 acres to a flexible multi-use space. And number 3 is pursue some form of redevelopment of the site, whether in whole or in partial, and Michael will walk through that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paula to talk through scenario 1.
Thank you, Will. Hello, everybody. I did absolutely want to start with a baseline, and that was obviously looking at the existing course. and what the possibilities were for that as we started our grand thinking. So here are some reflections that we had, or thoughts that we had to initially start us out. You've heard already that we do think the course is visually appealing. The maturity of landscaping is nice. It does have the advantage of being a short course, so that really will help you all in your decision making, because courses that are larger than yours oftentimes are in decline by virtue of the time that it takes to actually golf the course. So that's definitely an advantage. We heard over and over again from a variety of golfers who happily participated in the review process is that it's a very affordable course for them, and they like that and they would like to keep that. And we commend your team that runs the course, because they've thought of different ways to use the course, and the examples are the foot golf and the bike golf. So those were great ideas on their part to try and expand the use. So we wanted to think about this as a regional conversation. You heard your business talk, your hospice business talk very eloquently about where you're positioned and who is actually visiting and being a part of Largo. So we wanted to consider those issues as we looked at the course itself. You've heard already about the upcoming capital costs and revenues that are not only inconsistent, but oftentimes very unpredictable. We've included a trend report for you. I think everybody understands that golf in its current configuration is struggling a bit, and what do we do about that, if anything? You do have Pinellas County courses, that's a mouthful, that are closing, so that's a concern. We also wanted you to think about who is your service, who are your services targeted toward, who is the golf course targeted toward? We weren't sure. Is it just Largo residents? Is it neighboring community members and visitors? We think that based on what you are thinking as commissioners and with your community support and input, you can target your marketing better that way. We would also encourage you to think about unconventional partners, I guess, folks that could help expand your base if indeed you were to choose in your strategic process to leave the course alone. So here are some examples that we came across. I am familiar with the Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary Program. It's a marvelous program. It allows golf courses to stay, and it helps the environment. So those kinds of ideas were ones that we encouraged you to think about, or would like you to think about. And Will was able to pull that great slide that showed you about regional connectivity in all its forms. And so that would be a part of what I hope you are thinking about as you look at your choices for what to do with the course in the process that you have over the 5 or 10 years that you're going to do that. Jenna, next slide. So if you leave the course as it is, if that ends up being your decision, we think there's some interim things that you might be able to do or consider. We would really encourage you to, not that you don't, but this is a business and you need to understand who your competitors are. So we would encourage you to think about independently benchmarking all your competitors. What are they doing? What are they charging? How are their rounds of golf? What's the activity and the sources? And we would also like you to think about benchmarking all of your recreation opportunities with a needs assessment. What do you have? What don't you have? What can you offer to make a robust opportunity with this course? We would like to see something about integrated outreach and marketing for all departments. As we teased out some of the information that was given to us, it was clear that folks were out a little bit, but I think in review of all the material, we think it could be more robust. I know you've done restructuring on your fee process in the past, but I would really encourage you, all of us would, to think about fees. We understand affordability is important if the course stays as it is, and what is affordable and what is competitive. And it doesn't mean it has to make a buck. So please don't think that we are suggesting that. We understand this is a municipal course, but it does, if it stays an enterprise fund operated course, it needs to at least break even. The last reflection on this slide is an upgrade of the clubhouse. We really would encourage you to think about that and ways to do that. Next slide. So this is the last piece on leaving the course as existing, and we would like to recommend that if you were to choose this option, that you consider some enhancements of the current configuration. Marketing should be coordinated. We would like to see a variety of uses, as I know you would, encouraging youth and others to begin to use the services at this beautiful facility. And actually, the site location really makes it accessible as long as there are ways to get there, which we already addressed. Some other ideas that we thought about is a little more robust health and wellness. You have a great recreation program, so enhancing that through the site itself. You do have a multi-purpose room. We're not sure it's best suited for a variety of uses. We would like to see you do that and consider how to enhance that area. We heard a great deal from your stakeholders that they would really like additional places for meetings within the community, and this would be an awesome place to do that. And given our current conditions that I don't think are going to change much no matter where we go, any enhanced outdoor spacing to be able to do things would be really, really smart in terms of use of the existing site. And we just want to remind you that all of this can be phased if you chose to keep the 18-hole course. So I think that's it for me, is it not? And I'm going to turn it over to Hannah McAleer, my colleague on tap, to talk about scenario 2 that we considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Scenario 2 looks at if the city decides that golf is not what you want on that site long term, keeping it open as recreation open space and what that might look like. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Jenna. Thank you. So some preliminary planning considerations that are going to need to be met before any design on the site. We'll be really looking at the site context and seeing how whatever is proposed will impact the neighborhoods, the noise, the view sheds, the traffic, everything like that. We would also recommend looking at connectivity, not just in the immediate neighborhood, but on a regional level, going back to the opportunities that Will presented on the slide. You have a great park system, and the linkages could really strengthen it. We would also recommend looking at your recreation programming and really looking at what you propose to be something that is community serving and activities that support the physical health, social well-being, and or activities that are diverse and get everyone involved, something for everybody. I think, next slide, Jenna, please. So some of the opportunities that we think you could look for in the design of a recreation open space over the entire site would be to really identify your recreation preferences. Also, you could look at educational opportunities and how you could partner with some other community groups to provide educational opportunities on that site. There are also some social and cultural opportunities you can incorporate through arts and programming. And of course, tying back to the strategic plan, how you bring environmental resilience into the site and what you do there. We understand that the city of Largo is very proud of their urban canopy, which it should be. It's very hard to keep up an urban canopy, so that's something that you could really bring into this site as well and highlight. Next slide, please, Jenna. So the first thing we looked at is the option 2, 2A, we'll call it. If you decided to discontinue golf with pretty little due diligence, you could have a great open passive park, and you could maintain it at minimum levels, use the walking trails, you would have great open play areas, and you could start incorporating some programming into the clubhouse and into the open space itself to host small events. We think that would give you some increased users and increased diversity of users. You could also, on top of that, layer some things like trail fitness, enhance the landscape, create an exterior trail to do 5Ks and host other fun runs and things like that, fundraising events. Additionally, you could remodel the existing clubhouse and event room to use that. Go ahead to the next slide, Jenna, please. A second alternative to this scenario would be, we understand through some of the input that we got from stakeholders that The Southwest Recreation Center is in need of some upgrades. So as a second phase or second strategy to the open space concept, you could work with them and decide how to co-locate different facilities that are in need. We certainly did not see this park as being the athletic facility with ball fields and everything, but there could be some synergy between the two sites. And they're so close in proximity, we think there could be opportunities there to explore. The last option here, I'm just going to say the sky is really the limit. We've seen all types of recreation planning. One of the things we've also thought about is, this community serving idea and having a community center. You could create some flex space where you could create incubator space for your nonprofits around the city, and also use that as programming, adult education, children education. Lots of really get behind the programming of a center like that and do some neat things there. Go ahead to the next slides, Jenna, and we'll just kind of pass through some of these. These are some of the ideas: community gardens, interpretive learning education centers, community art, the co-work space, which I mentioned, and the simple open space can be used for so many things that really engage the community, get everyone outdoors and get everyone active. Yoga in the park, dog parks, playgrounds, small amphitheaters to host events. To kind of come up with some of these ideas and look at how successful some of these could be, we looked at a couple of case studies. The first one that we looked at, this one's pretty similar. It was about a 40-acre golf course in Oregon, and you'll see the landscape is very different than what we have here in Florida, but nonetheless, they closed down the golf course and created trails, playgrounds. They had art elements that were incorporated into nature, bringing the people into nature and art. They also created a lot of habitat, built greenhouse. We'll just go through these next ones pretty quickly, but the second case scenario, you can see there they took the old fairways and planted it with natural plantings to create some habitat. But this one was a really interesting case. As I said, the sky's the limit. They actually turned the golf clubhouse into a bat observatory. So that's really thinking outside the box. We're not proposing that, but just giving you an example of thinking outside the box. And you can go on to the next one, Jenna. Here's another one, but these have been very successful where they have been implemented that we have found. With that, ideas like these we think really support the pillars identified in the Parks and Strategic Plan. And we think they could provide you some flexibility, also some opportunity to phase the park, knowing that the capital costs may not be there to create a whole park at once. You could come up with a phased approach in your strategic planning for it. With that, I will turn it over to Michael to talk about the third scenario.
Thanks, Anna. So for this last option, we looked at redevelopment scenarios for the property with the goal of finding alternative uses that we believe would make sense for all stakeholders. And in order to figure out what would, quote unquote, make sense, we created an evaluation framework that allowed us to look at more than just the monetary outcome of this, seeing as this is city-owned property and there are more goals than just the money. So the simplified framework that we looked at were first, area and neighbor considerations. Really, that's what surrounds us, what's the context and character of the area. Next is the actual physical property characteristics. What areas are actually developable? Is there enough land area where we can do something meaningful? Next one would be the community need and purpose. And property of this scale really has an opportunity to achieve, some civic and social goals as part of it. And then lastly was what is the economic viability of something like this or a development here. And this is really looking at what provides the best bang for the buck, that bang, as I mentioned, being a little bit more than just the monetary component. And even quickly going through these, I'm sure you can already see that, some of this criteria seems to somewhat contrast with each other. And so our challenge is really one of a balancing act where we need to weigh out the various options and find what seems to best hit all of these considerations and kind of look at them in totality as opposed to maxing out one individual component. So through weighing and balancing out all the stakeholder considerations and looking at the framework, our team development plan, which is on our next slide here, that utilized only a portion of the property for development today and left the remaining areas undeveloped for reassessment in the future, somewhat of a phased approach, if you will. So I'm going to quickly run through the areas that you see on the screen in the different colors right now. And then what I'll do is I'll circle back to the whys, why we place things in certain areas, and look at that through the evaluation framework that I just mentioned. So starting at the top, it looks like the letter's a little faint on the screen, but that purple area is what we're calling Area A. This is really the core redevelopment area. This is about 20 acres, and our concept here is that this area would be sold and or leased for multifamily residential housing. As John mentioned, that is certainly a use that right now seems to have a lot of excitement and energy to it. This housing could be market rate multifamily or workforce housing or some combination of the two. Typically, property of this size would be somewhat of a garden style multifamily use where you see densities of about 20 or so dwelling units to the acre. That would lead us to about 400 plus or minus homes there. And the idea with A being in that location too is it wouldn't be a standalone community kind of cut off from the remaining portions of the property, which I'll talk about in a second, but it would tie in, if nothing else thematically, but also having physical connections throughout the entire site. Moving down the site here, you can see Area B is basically leaving that portion of the golf course as is. There's probably some reconfiguration that would be required to allow that to occur, but there's 24 acres here, which is a little over half the property that we're proposing to leave as a golf course, at least in the interim. Since we are somewhat chopping the property in half, this obviously could no longer remain a 18-hole golf course. So the idea here is that we would likely downsize it to a 9 or even a 6-hole golf course, which is a trend we've seen in other places in the country. Basically play it 3 times and you get to a full 18. And again, this component of the property would remain as golf course, at least for an initial evaluation phase. And then lastly, all the way at the bottom of the screen is Area C. This is roughly 2 acres. You've heard a lot about multi-use today and how that seems to be something that stakeholders are looking for. This would be a multi-use club area. So I'll dive a little bit deeper into this one because it's a little unique and different from what exists there today. But the concept is kind of getting rid of the old stodgy, clubhouses that you typically find at golf courses and doing something that is a little more vibrant, a little more welcoming, more outdoor activity spaces, and something that doesn't just have to be, a daytime special or one use sort of facility. And we believe that putting it down here with the front door, so to speak, on Walsingham really invites people in here and creates a little more activity and energy to what's behind being this golf course there. And so now on our next slide, what I'll do is I'll actually kind of go back to that evaluation framework, tell you why we came up with these different components. So first, area, neighborhood, that was our first evaluation criteria. This one, to me, coming from the development background, is kind of an obvious, this is a primarily residential area. And if we want to match that context of the existing community, it seems that, the multifamily up there in the purple segment is really what makes sense. Putting the multi-use club area C down along Walsingham also seemed to make sense. You've got, basically retail uses along Walsingham in that location. And while the clubhouse that we're talking about or the rec area that we're talking about isn't necessarily a retail use, has somewhat of a quasi-retail feel to it. So putting it up there with, on the main road next to other retail uses seemed to make sense to us. Next evaluation criteria was property characteristics. And again, this is kind of just looking at the physical characteristics of the property. And what we're looking for here is what I would say are just the meatiest portions of the property. What areas are efficient for redevelopment? And that's where we honed in on this purple area. And having that kind of larger swath of land to work with gives us a good opportunity to cluster development in what I would say is the least disruptive manner to our surroundings. The other thing it provides in this purple area is it allows us to protect most of the view corridors onto the golf course. If you look at a lot of the condominiums, particularly to the east of the site here, you can see most of them have their view corridors looking out onto Area B on our plan here, and those would be preserved by way of keeping that as the operational golf course. So those first two kind of elements of the framework that we looked through are kind of the obvious and easy, but I think, on looking at the next two is where it starts to get interesting. So first one is community need and the purpose of why we're doing this. So first is on multifamily. We heard, not even in our presentation, but prior to our presentation, about the growing population for the area. And assuming that Largo continues to follow the trends of the state of Florida with the growing population, we think it's best to plan for the future. And while there may not be a dire housing need or workforce and attainable housing need in the city today, we think that, like other places in the state of Florida, it will eventually get to that point, and it's better to plan for and provide that housing now before that situation becomes dire. The next component of kind of community need and purpose is the golf side of things. And you got to ask the question, why are we keeping golf here if we've heard that it doesn't necessarily make sense? It has its issues. We know it's not a money-making enterprise. Right now, it's tax funded for the benefit of what is really a narrow portion of the population. And what we'd really like to do with the golf course in this, kind of somewhat reconfigured manner is open it up to a broader audience. And I think it was Paula who mentioned that we have to commend the current golf course they've really made progress to try to open up to that broader audience. But we still think there's more that can be done. And one of the last remaining impediments that we think is kind of giving this broader acceptance across people more some of our stakeholder meetings where think about this course and the spectrum of golf, it's actually a pretty inexpensive round, but that inexpensive round is still out of reach for some. So we'd like to remove that impediment. And the goal here by way of this entire program, which I'll touch on how it works economically in a second, is to reduce the cost of getting on the course out here. And in some cases, this would be on a limited basis, even make golf rounds free for certain people. So I know that might sound crazy, but we believe it's possible. And like I said, that's a great tie into the last consideration here, which is the economic viability of this plan. So basically the concept here is that the city would take the proceeds from the sale of the 20 acres to fund improvements to, Area C or any reconfiguration of the golf course. And with any additional proceeds, basically put those aside to fund ongoing operations should any subsidy be needed. And what you would do over an initial evaluation period is, recognizing there's risk is you're going to see, is this plan that we have to, offer cheaper rounds, basically, provide subsidy by way of the other uses that we're proposing here, enough to help get people out there and golfing. And what we think does is give the city, this will be a function of value and what the market tells you the value of A is, what other is not suggesting. And we think this novel approach to seeing by reducing the big impediments to playing that being cost that the city gets this more diverse segment of the population is game. And our hope is that ultimately this becomes a great amenity to the area and ultimately audience to the game of golf would otherwise been prohibited from doing so from a standpoint to lifelong participants of the game and getting that regular play here where it no longer is going to require subsidy. Now, as I said, there's certainly risk to this option, which is why we're suggesting it only lasts for somewhat of an initial evaluation period. That evaluation period, again, will be a function of, how is A sold for how much money, and that'll give some runway. What that is, 5-10 years, again, it's going to be a function of that value, but it will allow the city to basically come back, reassess this at a future point in time and say, did this idea that we had work? If so, great, we keep it up. It's fantastic. We have a self-sustaining golf course on our hands. And if it doesn't work, you know what, there have been some other great options that have been proposed. And I think that, right before me, obviously with Hannah talking about option B with a lot of the recreation and open space component, the city could pivot at that point in time to a program like that with this parcel B area. So ultimately, we think this is very for the
You've heard us outline a range of scenarios, obviously starting from changes to making very few changes and something of a hybrid, somewhere in between. There were some common threads to that, and all of these scenarios recognize that as an enterprise fund, the golf course is having some difficulty. It's not only not paying for itself from an operational standpoint, there is no money now being set aside for the capital improvements that are looming. At the point then that it goes from being an enterprise fund to being a line item in your city budget, then that implies there has to be a more obvious outreach to the community as a whole if the community as a whole is going to support it, because it's not being supported just by golf activities. That led to a lot of the discussion about a renovated or repurposed clubhouse so that it becomes more of a community center, so that it reaches out to the public as a whole. So more of the folks, the taxpayers of Largo, feel like it is theirs and how they can have a stake in it. It's not just not just for a few. We've outlined some next steps in terms of our conclusion. So we think, first of all, the outreach that you've done on this has been amazing. We were very impressed with the extent of the surveys that were done. Keep up that outreach regardless of of what you decide going forward. We understand this is not a today decision that you have to make, but you're looking to the long-term future. During that time, also continue due diligence with respect to the site, what the environmental and transportation considerations are on it, having more understanding. We know that if there is a reuse, that may trigger a land use amendment. That's not necessarily an easy process, but understanding that, being prepared for that. If there is a disposition of the site, either through fee simple or even ground lease, we understand that triggers the need for a referendum, understanding all the implications of that. So there's a lot of that can be going on in the meantime. But secondly, we want to, one thing you've heard several people talk about is soft changes. Those are programmatic. It's marketing, it's outreach, building partnerships with other folks to take fuller advantage of the asset that you already have. And then finally, as I mentioned before, understanding the totality of the capital costs. We didn't have a real good handle on that. We know there are capital costs that are looming, but when that happens, as I said before, it can no longer really operate as an enterprise fund, and there needs to be a recognition of what the implications of that are. Ultimately, we're not in your position. We haven't been elected. These are policy decisions that you're going to be faced with coming down the line. It kept coming back to us time and time again. We said, if it were me, I'd do this, but it's not us, it's you. And what we tried to do is outline all the implications, give you various scenarios, give you something to be thinking about going forward.
Okay, well, is that the end of your report? Well, thank you very much. I'm sure that I can speak for the rest of the commission in saying that everything that we've seen so far has been very in-depth and very thoughtful, and I know I can say that I very much appreciate all that information. And whenever we do have to make this decision, we will definitely lean on that a lot. So thank you very much. For all the folks in the audience today, we are going to give everybody who's filled out a card. First of all, let me say, if you do want to speak, please fill out a comment card, and they can be found out front, or the clerk can get those for you. You will have 3 minutes, and it'll be timed. You can see it at the podium. Please, let's remain civil. I understand that everybody here is very passionate about the golf course or whatever we're going to be discussing. So I just want to make sure that everybody remains civil. This is going to be a good conversation. We have not made any decisions, and we will not be making any decisions today. So we are absolutely wanting to hear everything that you have to say, because I'm assuming that most of you are all here in support of the golf course, and we definitely want to get that feedback from you guys. So we'll go ahead and open it to public comment, and then after the public comment, we can have a conversation up here with the commission. So go ahead, Diane.
Okay. First card I have is Marvin Palmieri.
Yes, sir, right up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Marvin Palmieri, and I'm just an old golfer that needs glasses and a hearing aid. But anyway, I watched the two videos online, one by Will Payne and the other one by Julian Perez. They were very well done, clear, and very informative, and I learned a lot. Now, Will Payne was talked about the financial thing with the golf course, and maybe in 5 to 10 years, you might come upon big renovations, and it's not funded. It's an enterprise fund. I'm not sure what all this is all about, instead of a public fund, so we don't get the tax money. But I say that what we need to do, if we got 5 years to go, what it says in the video, then we got to find a way to keep the golf course. Especially with the results of the Urban Land Institute survey, which overwhelmingly supports the golf course. With all the people answering online, they went through the whole thing, and it's a no-brainer that everyone wants to keep the golf course. And I know there's work to be done to keep the golf course. So we got time, it seems a few years, to get our heads together and fix it so we can keep the golf course. I walked every park, I'm here 22 years, I walked every park with my wife during the pandemic, and Largo's a great city. You got Central Park, you got the Nature Park, you got Bonner Park, Taylor Park with the alligators. Why can't we keep a golf course? It's a no-brainer here, but there ain't no brainers in the Thank you. And so everyone supports the golf course. Scenario 1 is the one. We don't want no more housing will be clogged up. Greens, the parks you got, there ain't nothing greener than a golf course. So anyway, I want to thank everybody, and I want to give a special couple of thanks to Gerald, who's the superintendent and does a magnificent job. The golf course is gorgeous. I sit in the back, I look out at the golf course, and I feel like I'm living the dream. And also Mike, the new manager, what a great guy. He's a good guy. So, and one more, Linda, back there, who does the flowers and the rock formation. If you ever ride there, you got to see it's she's magnificent. And it's a family thing. And everyone could come and play. No one gets turned away. L'chaim.
Okay, the next speaker is Keith Sullivan. Uh-oh, I must have said that wrong. Keita?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Keita Sullivan, and my husband Rich and I are City of Largo residents and longtime patrons of Largo Golf Course. We're in our 9th year of running a Wednesday afternoon league there and consistently average 60 players per week. We spend a lot of time at this course, and we have a vested interest in its future. Having a city-owned course is very unique. It makes Largo a desirable community to live in and visit. The size of it is perfect for all ages and manageable for all levels of play, from novice to experienced. It's close to the beach and offers golf club rentals for visitors, which is popular and unique compared to other courses. The course has youth programs that are invaluable to our children, as well as adult lessons privately or in a group setting. It is versatile for other events like foot golf and more recently Frisbee golf tournaments, which draw crowds of all ages from all over, not just locally. These events are a great revenue source for the course, and Largo hotels, restaurants, and stores benefit from this. The course has been steady with around 40,000 rounds per year for the last 10 to 12 years. Those same people shop in our stores and eat in our restaurants. If the course were to change or close, those golfers will go to other courses, taking revenue away from Largo businesses. The game of golf has been on a huge upswing for the past 12 months. With the pandemic, the course was the first city operation to open back up after the stay-at-home orders were lifted. Not too long ago, we couldn't go out to a restaurant or even to the beach, but we could go to Largo Golf Course and play golf. Since the pandemic, we've seen a surge of players at Largo. It's one of the activities you can still do and be socially distant. Other forms of recreation are all publicly funded. Could you explore and consider removing the course from the enterprise fund and into a general fund? Last fiscal year, this course revenue was 11% higher than the previous year. Between public play and weekly leagues, the course is extremely busy. I would think you could expect the same or even higher revenue percentages this fiscal year and in the future. While we can appreciate a professional organization like the Urban Land Institute and what their purpose serves, I have to ask, has anyone spoken to the course manager, Mike Baker? He has some excellent ideas on how to bring revenue to the course outside of golf. And the significant improvements required in the next 5 to 10 years, I would think speaking to Gerald Marcourt, the superintendent who has taken care of this course for 40 years, would have the best knowledge on what it will need and to be best maintained and improved. The Largo Golf Course employees and volunteers care very much about this course and do an excellent job of managing and maintaining it, which keeps it a beautiful place for all of us to enjoy. As golfers, this is our choice of exercise. We don't want to go to a rec center and swim or work out in the gym. Movement is life, and keeping active will maintain health and promote life longevity. Every Wednesday, players tell me it's their favorite day, and they're so happy to be able to golf at Largo. This course is not just a place for us to golf at, it's a place of community and gathering, and the past 12 months have been difficult for many people, and to change or close this course would honestly have a profound negative effect on us in many ways. I have like 20 seconds left. It appears...
Ma'am, I appreciate it. We absolutely understand what you're saying, but we've got quite a few people to speak, so.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Can I, Diane, before you call the next one up, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that we did receive approximately 30 emails. I think the Assistant City Manager mentioned it in her opening, and so we have received all those. The City Commission has received them. Instead of reading them all again, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that we did receive them. They've been distributed to the Commission, and I can speak for myself. They were all read, so thank you very much on that. So we'll go ahead with the rest of the comments.
The next speaker is Pam Lukers.
Thank you. My name is Pam Lukers. I'm a retired Air Force nurse, and I'm also a widow. I've survived a heart attack. I've survived colon cancer. My playing partner has severe arthritis. The Largo golf course is perfect because it is a 18-hole executive course. I don't know how many of you are golfers. Anybody? Didn't think so. The course is good because it is a course that is perfect for people who have disabilities like myself and my playing partners. If you're out on the course, you'll see people even with portable oxygen tanks slung over their arm. It's also good for people who are beginner golfers, and a lot of us don't have the energy to be able to play on a longer course like MacDill Air Force Base or Clearwater Country Club. It's also an affordable course. It doesn't have the requirements to be able to have to pay an entrance fee or a long fee that you'd have to be able to play. You can just get on the course and be able to play. The other nice thing about the course and playing golf is that it gives us socialization. I'm a widow, so especially with COVID out there, this past year has been very hard for us to be able to have other kinds of socializations to be able to get out and play. So I would hope that you would be able to give us this opportunity to maintain this course, especially because it's a very important opportunity for us to be able to get out with our friends. I'm part of I'm retired now as a nurse practitioner, but I'm part of a professional women's group, and when I was working, a lot of our members are still business women who are still in the area and are still very active, and it's also an opportunity for us to network. Golf provides an opportunity for people to be able to get out and network as well. So this is one of the few, as you pointed out, a lot of the golf courses are going out of business. This is one of the few areas one of the few courses that is still open and is viable. It's a beautiful little course. It's a gem. That is still open to us. And if you take this away, I can tell you that I personally am not going to have any interest in going to a 9-hole executive course. There's no reason to go out and play on a 9-hole executive course. By the time you just get started and just drag your clubs and get out on a course, playing 9 holes on an executive course is worthless. So your idea, whoever all these people are who probably don't ever even play golf, there's no point in going out to a 9-hole executive course. That's worthless. Thank you for the opportunity.
The next speaker is Ian Collinson.
Thank you. Ian Collinson, golf course grounds worker and long-time member of the golf club. Well, not member, but player there. I think everything has been previously said, but I am all for keeping the golf club going. Especially, I would like to see the clubhouse used more profitably. have outside caterers back like we had before. Then people were calling in, having lunch there. People were having a night out there, and it was great. And it was good turnover. A lot of the public came. We could also have weddings there. It's ideal position, and that's just that's me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Dan, is it Friend? Okay, we have 2 overflow rooms, so Dan Friend, we'll give you just a couple minutes to get over. He's what? Okay, good. And after Mr. Friend will be Elijah Hall, if he's also in one of the overflow rooms. It'll give you a minute to get over here.
I made it. Good afternoon. So 10 years ago, my son took a position as a professor at University of Tampa. And he has 2 little boys, and that's the reason why I moved to Florida. Now, I looked at areas all around Tampa, and when I came to Largo, somebody invited me to play golf at Largo Golf Course. What a jewel. That adds to the quality of life in Largo more than any of the other amenities that are here. It is just a jewel. I just ask that you take that jewel and polish it, market it, and preserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Elijah Hall, and after him will be Eric Swanman.
Hello, my name is Elijah Hall. I am a member of the Indian Rocks golf team. And before I started golf, I always drove by a Largo golf course. It was just, something that was there, never really thought of it. And so after a few years, I decided to, just take a chance of the summer camp that they had there. It looked fun. I had some friends that went there. They enjoyed it. So I decided to go for a few years. Never really thought that that'd be my main sport to play, but I started playing there. The Indian Rocks school, they use that as their main golf course. I can't tell you how many smiling faces I see of the kids that go there for the summer camps. They might not know how to play golf, but they definitely learn and experience the joy of going out there, fresh air, instead of being inside playing video games or being on your iPad or phone. And so that they really enjoy going out there. Eric Swanman, I've taken lessons from him there multiple times. Very enjoyable, great course. There are things that can be, fixed with the course. But I think that, since COVID hit, multiple things can be fixed. It's kind of like an old car. It might not work the best, but it's definitely still gets you from place to place. Thank you.
Hey, Elijah? Is it Elijah? Hey, thank you for I know it's very intimidating to come up here and stand up here, and you did a fantastic job. So thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Eric Swanman, and after him will be Chuck Hayes. And they may be in one of the overflow rooms.
We got all night.
Hello, my name is Eric Swanman, and I am a longtime resident of Largo.
Actually, my first round of golf was ever played was at the City of Largo Golf Course when it was Indian Rocks Golf Course, 47 years ago. Just had a birthday. Anywho, since then, been playing there all my life there. My family had our own foursome, mother, father, my brother, and I. Since then, I've been a golf pro in this area for 25, 30 years. Got recruited over here with Keita. She was now running the league, but I got started there working with Jason, who was the old manager at the golf course, and got me to come in here and teach with the kids doing the summer camp. Been doing that for 12 years now. A couple of them right here. Elijah's one of them. And we also do the summer camp during, obviously, summertime, and then we have after-school programs that we do. So it would be a shame. We have, I think, in our book of kids over the years, we have had 300. So we have, and some of them are still playing, obviously, most of them are still playing golf growing up since they were 4 or 5 years old. So it would be a shame. There's nothing else better you can do to keep, other than keep that a golf course. Nothing. So do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chuck Hayes.
You can come right up here to the podium, sir.
Hello, my name is Chuck Hayes. I've lived here in Florida for approximately 36 years now. I moved down from the Windy City, and I never went back. My wife and I, we lived in North Reddington Beach for quite a long time, and I used to tell her, says, it's beautiful looking out the bedroom window and looking at water. Because it was out on the island, and we were surrounded. Well, it came time to downsize. I also wanted to find a place that I could look at something that was natural and was beautiful. We ended up purchasing a place at Villa de Golfs, right next door to the Largo Golf Course. Over the years, I've played in many courses, small and large. Now I volunteer at the Largo Golf Course because, it's just like people have said before. It's an unpolished gem. And, if you folks and everything else could maybe take time with all the consulting groups and maybe find a group that can give you some ideas on to make the course even better. They've got good people working there, and I'm sure there's people just like you have that wants to do different things with it that could find ways that make it a very successful thing for the village. I think Largo has enough parks, they don't have another golf course. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the cards. I know we have 3 attendees on the Zoom call. Brandon, are any of the hands up? Brandon's monitoring Zoom. I do have one more email that came in as well. Just one. This is from Gloria Metzger, and she says, please do not close Largo Golf Course. Largo Golf Course is a great source of pleasure to the many residents of Largo and the surrounding area. It is also a great source of exercise for the many seniors in the area as well. Many people have been going to the golf course for many, many years and have many happy memories from years past. And it is also important to the children who are receiving instructions from a knowledgeable instructor, Eric Swanman. It would be a great loss to the community. Largo does not need another park, playground, or shopping strip. The best use for this property is for it to remain a golf course. Okay, and there are no hands up on Zoom.
Okay, and just to make sure, is there anybody else in the audience that...
Oh, I'm sorry. Then we got a hand up. Rob Healy, if Brandon could move him over.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. It sounds like the first question to be addressed here is residential versus recreation. I heard that in the presentation. I've reviewed the videos and participated in some of the feedback that the city sought. And it seems that the community was unanimous in the surveys and feedback that no one wants development. I think you'd have a lot of very unhappy constituents, including a lot of people that don't golf that aren't here today, here if the question is redevelopment, particularly 400 homes of traffic on Vaughn Road would be a huge mistake. And we've seen constituents in the county respond to redevelopment of golf course ideas recently. The Tides Golf Course in Bardmore come to mind. The county commission refused to do zoning changes in those situations because of the outcry from so many people. We are a built-out county. I think another example that you've seen is the green space deal in Dunedin, where developers ended up selling 40 acres of property back to the city and the county because we have so little green space. So I think question one is very easy. The residential plan is not a good plan for Largo. And it's not a good idea, even when packaged with a 9-hole golf course. The feedback was very clear as well, both from the folks here tonight, as well as in the surveys leading up to this, that a 9-hole golf course won't work. And I think that was borne out even by what Mr. Reimer had to say, talking about how when golf courses close, the play doesn't go up at Largo Municipal. We've seen that. Tides is closed, Bay Point Golf Course closed, and yet we haven't seen more play. So to think that a 9-hole course, which is less desirable, is somehow going to be the solution to golf, I think would be a huge mistake. And frankly, it's just a 2-zone development plan where they would develop half of it, and 5 years later, when the golf failed, they'd develop the rest. The only other thing I'd like to mention is there's a really great case study for option 2 down in Sarasota. And I'm not arguing for the closure of the golf course, but if the city elects to make that decision, they should look at Potter Park in Sarasota. It's a neighborhood park that's about the same size as this golf course. And it is a multi-use park. It has a playground, dog park, extensive outdoor exercise area with equipment, trails, and it's got a 50-meter pool. As many of you know, I'm affiliated with the pool and the swim team, and Southwest Pool's been on the CIP budget for years. One day it's going to be an emergency when the pipes fail underneath it. And if the city were to consider a mixed use park like Potter Park in Sarasota, it would allow.
Your 3 minutes is up, and we appreciate your time, and we're going to continue on with our conversation.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
We have one more Zoom speaker, Craig Murtha.
Thank you for letting me speak today about the golf course. I'm very concerned about the environmental and health impacts of the golf course, specifically the heavy use of insecticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. All of these chemicals poison the soil and kill beneficial soil organisms. But it does not stop there. These chemicals leach into the groundwater and into the aquifer and ultimately work their way into the water supply. It is also notable that it appears as if the golf course was designed to drain into Church Creek, which runs along the western side of the golf course. If this assumption is correct, it would be reasonable to assume that chemical runoff is being carried north of Church Creek through the neighborhood to the north and then through Serenity Garden Cemetery, where it then crosses under Indian Rocks Road and goes into the Intracoastal Waterway, where it most likely is negatively impacting marine life. I'm also concerned about the health impacts of all of these chemicals on the maintenance personnel that apply these chemicals and the neighbors that surround the golf course. If the golf course were to be converted to a natural area with hiking trails, chemical usage would drop substantially. Having a natural area with hiking trails would also provide pedestrian connectivity between all of the surrounding neighborhoods and the commercial shopping areas along Walsingham Road. That connectivity would enhance the walkability and quality of life of the entire area. We should also consider that there is a 440 feet of valuable frontage along Walsingham Road. it may be feasible to do a triple net ground lease on 1 acre along Walsingham Road to a national chain such as Chipotle. And we could require them to supply a parking area for park visitors as part of the agreement. This would reduce costs for the city, and the loss of the 1 acre of green space along busy Walsingham Road would be more than offset by the removal of structures and some of the parking area related to golf course operations. Finally, we should consider that 80% of Americans go to parks every year, while only 10% golf. Public parks also level the the playing field between the rich and poor children, because unlike golf courses, all children can enjoy parks free of charge. When we consider our environment, our children, and the health and well-being of all of our citizens, the only clear and responsible choice would be to convert this park to parkland. Thank you.
That's the last speaker. Okay. Again, so what I was going to say before that was, if there is everybody who's here, I know there's some people in the audience who have not spoken. That's obviously fine. If you have any interest in speaking, please get a card to the clerk so we can hear what your comments are. Otherwise, we're going to move on past that section and have conversation up here with the commission. So if is there anybody in the overflow rooms that is interested in speaking that hasn't had the opportunity or wasn't aware that they needed to fill out a card? Okay, if anybody comes in, we'll make room for them. So if there's any questions or comments from the commission, we'll go ahead and have those now. Commissioner Carroll?
Yeah, first of all, having been around a long time, no comment from you, Vice Mayor.
Not right now.
I'd like to compliment everybody that presented or spoke tonight, or wrote in or spoke on Zoom, because this is the way it's supposed to work. This community feedback, this interaction allows us to make a much better decision. As the Vice Mayor said, we don't make a decision on this tonight, but we're considering trying to do our job up here and make sure we're representing all the citizens in Largo. And it's this kind of discussion that is most valuable to us. So I just want to thank you for participating tonight.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, we had another hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, go ahead.
I just have a person. His name is Chris.
Chris, go ahead and we'll give you 3 minutes for your comment.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Chris Desilets. I'm part of this, a member of the CDAB of the City of Largo. I've been here only for 4 years. I'm originally from Montreal, and I lived in Orlando for about 15 years. I don't know much about the Largo golf course. Actually, I didn't even know there was a golf course, because every time I go to the Performing Arts Center or I go to the library, I've never seen anything that mentions, or any poster that mentions about the golf course of Largo. So I think maybe it would be good to have a little bit more publicity within parks and recreation and arts, so that they kind of hold each other and support each other. Like when you go to the Performing Arts Center, maybe you should see something about the library. When you go to the library, maybe you should see a poster about the golf course or the performing art, and vice versa, so they all kind of support each other, you know? And the other thing is that if you ever decide to build part of it, or to build a residential or something on it, I would really not like to see the type of project that has been built for the last 60 years that is based on cars. That would be like a gated community with winding roads that look like snakes. I hate that. I would really like to see, if you ever decide to build something that connects with the existing streets, something that encourages pedestrian and mixed use. And that's it. But I think you should try to maybe make it more popular first, because I heard that they offer good prices. And I think if it's something that the city of Largo offers to its residents, then maybe try to make it, like when they built the new city hall, maybe they could have a sign in front or in the street, over the street, a big billboard sign that mentions activities, at the performing art, activities at the library, activities at the golf course, special price at the golf course for a week. I don't know, things like that.
Okay, thank you, sir, and we appreciate your service on the CW.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Finger has.
Yep, I'm heading that way. Commissioner Finger.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who did come out to speak tonight. We appreciate all of your comments. And also a big thank you to the ULI team. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I enjoyed all of the information you gave us about the real estate growth, the different markets, the areas you saw growing over the years. Since we're looking at the 5-10 years out, I think that that's very helpful in how you were looking at distribution centers, then housing, and so giving us that idea of what is going to be more sustainable for us over a long term. And also there was discussion about, you guys said you were leading with people in mind. So whatever, as our discussion continues, and for those that are participating from the public, knowing the decisions we make are about what is best for people, what is best for our community. And I really enjoyed both of your options regarding having a destination park or the redevelopment concept plan, because even though you had the shorter 9-hole golf course, it was essentially that placeholder for that phased in development of what do we see again in that future of what would be best for the people of Largo. So I enjoyed hearing both of those. Would be the two that I enjoyed the most hearing, and kind of just further discussing and seeing where they go. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you. I have some questions for the ULI team. First of all, I do want to thank everybody for coming out and taking time to share your passion with us. I really do appreciate it. And I want to thank the ULI team for a wonderful presentation. I'm looking forward to the book. Is the book going to be in more depth than what we saw here on the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'm looking forward to that. Hope we'll get that soon, like tomorrow. So here's a few questions. First of all, how big is the clubhouse at the golf course? How big is it? Square feet?
How many square feet is your existing clubhouse?
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, I'd like to know
You
that.
can find it. We'll get that for you.
Okay, great. The fees at the course, of course, and we've heard several times, are very affordable for the residents here and for the people who use the course. How do they stack up against fees at other private courses? Is there much room to perhaps raise the fees a couple bucks around and still make it viable? Did you look into any of that?
What's the question?
Fees, about the fees to play the course, yes.
It varies up until 2 o'clock, and then after 2 o'clock, it's less.
Do we have
But I was wondering.
Hold on a second. Sorry, Commissioner. Do we have anybody from Parks and Rec here that can answer the questions that Commissioner Gerard is asking?
Yes, Vice Mayor. We have our our Recreation Director, Joan Byrne, is in a waiting room, as well as Krista Penance, our Assistant Director.
Okay.
And I can answer the question on the golf course rates. Currently, for 18 holes before 2 p.m., it's $35 for riding. It's $27 for walking. After 2 p.m., and again, this is for 18 holes, it's $32 for riding, $25 for walking. 9 holes is $25 before 2 p.m. for riding, $20 for walking. After 2, $22 for riding, $17 for walking. And then we also have a 10-play riding package, which is $315, and a 10-play walking package, which is $243. So, and then there are some specials occasionally as well. So it is, it's quite reasonable.
Compared to other private courses and all that, it's very reasonable.
Correct.
Extremely. So is there room in those fees to maintain the affordability for the people here who might want to use it and still stay very competitive against other, with other courses, which are longer, which a lot of people don't even want to play, and so is there room to look at the fee structure that might help maintain, repairs and upgrades to the course?
Well, luckily.
So I'd be looking at you.
Yes, you can look at me, and I think that Joan and Mike is also here as well. They're also in the back and can answer some questions. But luckily, you're going to see the fee structure come before you. We're looking hopefully to that in the month of June.
Okay.
So that's a conversation that we can certainly have then. I think Joan would be able to talk a little bit about the history potentially about raising fees. Right now, a fee increase is not included in the future budget.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. And what and how many square feet?
Ma'am.
It's a very walkable
course. Yeah, thank you for that. The conversation is now with the staff, so we appreciate it.
I do appreciate your passion.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe another round of applause, who knows, But Joan, can you tell me, please, what the square footage is of the clubhouse?
Off the top of my head, I have to run back to my office and check, but I believe it's about 2,500 square feet.
2,500 square feet.
Give or take. I could be off a little bit. I don't know.
So to
all
make
that.
it a community meeting place and all that, you would actually need to do
Depends
some
upon if you
serious-
count the cart barn area as well, that, which is not air conditioned and not,
Right, okay.
interior.
All right. And I heard some comments regarding the viability of a 9-hole golf course. Did anybody from you folks over at ULI, did you look into 9-hole courses and what their success rate is around the country or in other markets?
Yes, several of our folks have talked about that's another alternative that some courses are shifting to. From a personal standpoint, and I can relate. I'm an old golfer who didn't bring my hearing aids either, but I once played a course. It was a country club course. It was 9 holes with separate tees, so the layout was such you were playing essentially when you played number 1 again, you were playing a different hole because the way it was layout. So you have to be careful about it. If you're used to an 18-hole, you got to manage it just right. But 9-hole courses do work.
All right. I suppose you could get down to a 1-hole course and just play that same hole 18 different ways, but I don't think that'd be a good idea. So is there any idea, and of course I know we're very far out. I mean, we're looking at years, and this is not a decision, as has been said several times, that we're not going to make a decision tonight. We're looking way into the future, which is our responsibility. Any idea, any kind of a price tag or a dollar figure for upgrading the course and going through repairs? And I would certainly understand if we just said no. Any idea?
I think, Joan, we have some very, very rough estimates, but we do not have anything concrete. And again, that is not, the capital is not in the current budget.
Right, of course it's not. I just thought maybe we're looking ahead a little bit. We had some very rough numbers.
Joan?
If you don't, you don't. I'm not worried about it.
No, we do have, I can give you, we just recently had an estimate on what it would cost. I've had a conversation with the green superintendent about the condition of the course and what would need to be replaced over the next, and when we did the remodel in 2007, we stripped it down to the bare earth when we did that. We have kept up with the fairways, the tee boxes. In fact, we've renovated them. They're in good shape. The greens are what fail after about 20 years, which we're coming up on 12 to 15 years of the current greens. The estimate from a company that we just got this week to renovate the 18 greens plus the putting green, so 19 greens, would be in the neighborhood of about $135,000, $135,000 to $140,000. And then that gives you another 15 or so years on the greens. That would be the biggest cost. The building, we've not had evaluated. We don't evaluate those. Presumably, you'd need a roof sometime in the next, an HVAC system. Those kinds of things would all have to be a part of it. But the course itself, the greens are the most important part, and the part that would need to be replaced or redone in the next few years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And again, I apologize for interrupting.
No, I appreciate you doing that.
I can do it all day.
All right.
Commissioner Holt?
So I'm going to our new motto here. So what makes Largo the city of choice? Your presentation was very good, great ideas, a lot of thought process. The passion that I heard from the people that spoke, actually a couple of people brought me to tears, although I'm a little sensitive person anyway, but y'all were, I mean, I totally get it. So our last conversation, Tuesday night's meeting, was regarding high dive and that it brings people to Largo. It's something that Largo has that other cities don't. Our parks, people have come to our parks from all over the state because we have fantastic parks. So the golf course, to me, is another concept that our city has that makes us not only the city of choice, but special in a way, because not a lot of cities have golf courses. I drive around our city a lot, and we have a lot of construction going on, a lot of positive things that are being built. But when I drive down Ulmerton, the one thing I always see is the golf course, and it's a pleasure to my eyes to see that green. So that's kind of where I'm standing right now, and I just wanted to put that out there for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I would also like to thank ULI for the report, and like Commissioner Gerard, I look forward to the more in-depth information. Being a library person, I like to get more into the weeds of things. No point intended. But also the citizens for coming out and talking tonight, because this, like we said, this is just the beginning conversation, so it's nice to a government not sitting there making a decision and hoodwinking citizens and wanting to get you all involved on what's going on. So thank you for coming out and talking to us tonight. I'm kind of, I agree this is not a decision. I'm more leaning to the first one. I like the idea of keeping it and figuring out ways that we can do different partnerships. But I don't play golf, but my brother-in-law uses it all the time, so he's always talking it up. But if there is ways that we could find a way as staff to connect the parks that we have, park system, with the golf course, I think that would be a great benefit to us, because there are many people that use their bikes or don't know about the golf course who may want to get there, or you do the golf course and want to get over to the McGow Preserve, the preserve over there, and go out and take a look at the birds out there. So, but the other kind of question I kind of had more of a many years ago, when I first came on the commission, we were talking about leasing it out, and I was against that idea. Have we gave it to staff and kind of gave it to them to come up with different ideas, and they have done a great job. I've heard many great things about the foot golf and those things and programs that they're thinking out of this box. And what your report a little bit came back to and touched on a little bit, and what citizens have been saying, is the lack of marketing. And maybe we need to figure out a different way, or figure out ways we can think outside the box of a city that's running a golf course, and even if it comes to social media, to connecting our citizens through, we get their emails and all that stuff. If there's a way we can find a way to people who are interested on our comment cards that want to know more about the golf course, they can check that box so they can get information. I'm just, like I say, this is the librarian shooting off the top of my head. And a little other thing is with the library, and the gentleman talked earlier about the Performing Arts Center. Does the golf course have a foundation or a friends group that helps kind of raise funds, or no? Maybe that's something we could think about maybe creating, or the citizens here come up with, because the foundation over at the library has brought in thousands and thousands of dollars, and every time the library has needed something that the city couldn't afford, it's been that connected community that has come together to bring resources. So if they're looking at maybe $100-something thousand, I mean, we just had a person who donated $5,000 just to the library, I believe it was, that just heard about that they were in need of scholarships. So I wonder if that's an opportunity we can partnership and find. And many of these citizens here and users, I think, would do that, I personally think. And yes, fees and stuff like that, but we've talked about, when we talked about the dive tower, is Largo, recreation should not be all based around fee, pay, or it should be something that you enjoy. You came here, you pay your taxes, you pay into stuff that you want to be able to live here and enjoy. And I think that we have to look past just sitting there saying it's just fees and we can't do this. I like the idea of thinking outside the box of different things, but I do have a problem with more development that's coming in. I understand that that's the hot thing right now, and everybody wants to come to the Tampa Bay. Heck, I would want to if I was up in north. My family's up in Michigan, so. But I have a hard time losing this asset that I think that we could think outside the box of different ideas, getting citizens' input, and becoming a better polished gem, best way I can put it. So thank you, everybody.
Mayor Brown?
Did you call my name?
Yes,
I wasn't
sir.
sure. Okay, thank you. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
My computer just told me that my connection's unstable, so I'm a little concerned about that. I want to start out by thanking both the folks from ULI as well as everybody that's there. I really wish that I could be there in person, because I really thrive on meetings where a whole bunch of people show up. So thank you all for being here. I'd like to tell you guys that I'm a regular golfer. By regular, I mean I play in the mayor's golf tournament every year, and that's it. It's regular. It's like once a year. I think I spent the whole time during both presentations, the presentation as well as the people that spoke, writing down what I think are great ideas that we should entertain in the next couple of years to make this golf course profitable enough that we can reinvest the money and keep it a golf course. A lot of the things that we're talking about, trends and that type of stuff, I see as reasons to keep this. Golf courses are closing around Pinellas County. I think that's a good thing. It makes us one of the only game in town. Certainly the only game on this side, mid Pinellas County, this side that is a executive course that's affordable, that's really well maintained and gets a lot of use. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the clubhouse. Somebody put in the chat here that the clubhouse is about 7,300 square feet. That includes I'm guessing it includes the area for the golf carts, which is not air conditioned, but it's a pretty decent sized building. It was built in 1997. I think it's underutilized. So I think there's a lot of different things that we could do. I really like Commissioner Smith's idea about getting people more connected to the golf course. I think you get the people that are here today and have them become members of the course, and they pay an annual fee, become a member, and that gets them a couple bucks off their cart fees or whatever it does. But it gets them more connected to the course and have member events. Have a day where I like the thought of having some free play for kids or for people to introduce them to the game. I would bet that our community members would volunteer to help with those events because it'll help with the longevity of the golf course. I'm kind of invigorated to find out, to workshop and to find out some good ways that we can breathe some new life into the golf course and keep it the jewel that it is for the city of Largo. I think it's important to take a look at all of our facilities like this and every now and then and talk about the long-term viability. And we learn better to understand what we have to do to keep it going. So that's where I stand. I appreciate all the input today and hope to have this conversation going on for a little while. And I do think that we need to talk to keeper folks and talk to some people that are regulars and talk to people that don't use it that often, but occasionally come to the mayor's golf tournament, which is in May. So don't mark your calendar. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. And we're going to be working on the vice mayor's foot golf tournament soon. I'll be in touch.
That's, I'll probably be better at that than at regular golf, but I can hit them hard.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Carroll?
Yeah, just kind of following up on what the mayor said, this is the beginning of this conversation. It's not the end of this conversation. I think it's prudent for us to look at all the services we provide with a long-range vision. And we have a strategic plan that we follow, and we try to base all our decisions off of that strategic plan. I think this commission has established a reputation of doing that. We look at things down the road, well beyond the time that we're sitting up here. So I just want to be honest with everybody involved in the discussion and make sure you remember when the money gets tight and the times are bad, these kinds of things are the first ones that other constituents say, why is the city of Largo in the golf course business if it's not making money? So I just want to have the honest discussion and make good decisions for our entire community and everybody's perspective. But one thing I think that we've demonstrated is that we are willing to take some risks to be the community of choice in Tampa Bay. We don't want to give up assets that we have that make us unique and draw people to our community. We're not interested in building more buildings and putting out more parking lots and everything else. So if you're not familiar with our strategic plan, I would encourage you to take a look at it, and you probably can see where we're coming from as we have these deliberations. That's all I got, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, again, to the ULI folks here and on Zoom, thank you very much for all the hard work that you guys have put into this report and taking the time to give that information to us and all the residents of the city of Largo and the surrounding communities. It's been very informative, and I think it'll go a long way in helping us make the decisions that we have to make down the road. So thank you all very much. For all the residents that are here tonight and presumably be watching on Zoom or on TV, thank you guys. We really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the feedback that we received over tonight and over the last couple of weeks through emails and phone calls and meeting people in Publix or wherever it might be. We've received a lot of feedback from the residents, and that makes our jobs much, much easier, because I can guarantee you that doesn't happen enough. We 7 of us are up here, and we try to represent Largo in the best interest of Largo, and we don't always get all the information and the feedback that we would like to have. So we do appreciate absolutely every one of you taking the time out of your busy schedules to come out here tonight, or send us an email, or like I said, hit us up when we're walking through the store. So thank you all very much for all of that. I don't really have anything to add to the conversation tonight. I think there's been quite a bit said by the commission. I agree with everything that was said. I think that we're going to have a lot more discussion on this moving forward, and our intention will absolutely be to continue to have the conversation with the residents and make sure that we're making the decisions that are best for the city of Largo. So again, thank you guys, for every one of you, for coming out, and if there's nothing else, we can go ahead and move on to the next item. Thank you all. Yes. If you can hold off for like 2 or 3 minutes, we'll be done, and then I'll be happy to answer any question. Is that fine? Is that all right? Thank you. You guys good? Thank you very much for everything. Okay, so
when are we going to get that book?
Now, when are we going to get the book?
I think he said 8 weeks.
A couple weeks. So next up on the agenda is any board or committee reports.
Jamie, do they need anything else?
No, there's no direction that was needed.
I just want to make sure they're not waiting
Yeah,
for us to give them.
you guys are all good, right? Okay, thank you all very much for coming in tonight. Any committee reports? I can go down the list if anybody has anything to add.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'm happy to let you all know that I attended the Area Agency on Aging for Pasco and Pinellas Advisory Council last night, or actually yesterday afternoon, and I was appointed as a new member of the council. And so,
Fantastic.
yes, and I'm looking forward to that participation. I think it's a wonderful agency and does some very important work, so I'll be bringing information to you from them.
Great, thank you very much. Mayor Brown, did you have something?
Well, my hand was still up from before, but since I'm here, I just wanted to thank Commissioner Gerard for representing Largo on the Agency for Aging. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I've got 2 items real quick for the Suncoast League of Cities. Not a whole much. There was an email sent out about our next meeting, which will be coming up here in the next couple weeks. I'll make sure everybody has that. It's going to be a Zoom meeting hosted by Clearwater. But just real quick, I have an email from the Suncoast League of Cities, as well as several environmental groups, Sierra Club and some other related groups, about some bills that are going through legislation right now that are harmful to not only the cities, but obviously they could be harmful to the environment as well. So I would like to ask, I'm going to send an email. I believe the mayor received it already, but I would like to send it to everybody, and if you approve or if you like what's being talked about in there, could you just sign the letter, and I'm going to, hopefully we can get something, maybe a little bit more from the mayor and sent out as well. That's all I have for the Suncoast League of Cities. PSTA, we redid the contract for the transportation of, I'm trying to think of.
Here.
Care Ride, yeah, sorry, so Care Ride, thank you, Commissioner. So basically, the transportation for folks that aren't able to take the bus or need other forms of transportation, that contract was renewed, or was redone for 5 years, and will be approved for the next, there's 2 5-year contracts added to that. So that's all I have on that. Any other?
Just Ford Pinellas has our meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and they're going to be updating us on new transportation impacts and stuff like that. So I'll have that to the commission once I have that new information. Also, right before it is, we're going to have our legislative delegation meeting, our legislative meeting, and they're going to be talking about a lot of the bills that are coming up, and also that the Forward Pinellas is looking at sending a letter that I requested to Mayor Secretary Buttigieg to welcome him to being the Secretary of Transportation, and ways that MPO and Pinellas County and our region can work together on improving some multimodal forms of transportation, not just roads, but buses and parks, or bikes and stuff like that. So once we have that meeting tomorrow, I'll have that forward on to y'all. And also, being on the Transportation Disadvantage, I'm the chair of that one. I'm going to send out a link to y'all. If you know anybody that is looking, who needs assistance or wants to apply for that, please do. There are many people that don't know about the program, and we need to get the word out that if you can't get to certain things, this group is here to help you. So I'll have that link out to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to let the mayor close it out, but he just texted me, said his connection dropped, so I'll go ahead and unless he jumps back on, I'll go ahead and ask for items from the commission. Commissioner Carroll?
Yeah, I should have maybe brought this up during the earlier discussion, but just for the benefit of the commission, I asked Mr. Schubert, as we go through this discussion on the golf course, to make sure, in keeping with our discussion at our retreat, that we bounce some of these questions and issues off of our sustainability folks to be able to talk about what we're doing to mitigate environmental impacts. That position frequently comes up in these discussions, and I'd like to be prepared in advance to know what we're doing.
Okay.
But other than that, I have nothing from.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Gerard?
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Holt?
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Finger?
I have nothing. Thank you.
And I don't really have I don't have anything either. Mr. Schubert? Nothing? Maggie, you want to say anything?
I have nothing.
That's it then. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, guys.